Hello, everybody out there. It's me, Corey, truly evil Bob. This is the show Capes and Lasers here at UAA on KRUA, nestled between the bay and the mountains. Today, I'm doing something a little special. I'm recording myself on camera. I'm going to post my show up on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. Truly Evil Bob's my channel. That's youtube.com/c/trulyevilbob. I'm also on Twitter. You can join me in the discussion I'm having today on Twitter at Truly Evil Bob. Right over there. I'm pointing. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see me point. I haven't been in for the last 2 weeks. The first week I was locked out, and the second week I was busy doing some personal business that I will not talk about. But I'm back, and I will be back for the foreseeable future. Everything, all of my sketchiness has been totally ironed out, as it were. So let's get right into it. What's the topic for the day? Topic for today is when fandom goes bad. When nerds act like jerks. When nerds act like jerks. When people who love fantasy, sci-fi, and comic books start being exclusionary and hurt people. And that's not cool. We're going to talk about that for a little bit today. But first, it's a segment. I was previously calling it the news, but I'm going to rename it the Daily Planet. It's the Daily Planet coming over the wire. So I've been gone for the last 2 weeks, so there's lots of stuff to discuss about things that are going on within sci-fi, fantasy, and comic books, which include, let's talk about the Superman mustache. So Henry Cavill is doing this movie called Mission Impossible number 6, actually. It's number 6. With Tom Cruise and all them. And I really liked the last Mission Impossible movie. I hope everybody else likes those movies. They're hit or miss. Like, I didn't like the one that John Woo did for, I love John Woo movies when they're Hong Kong action flicks. I didn't like John Woo movies when he was doing Hollywood John Woo. I don't like Hollywood John Woo, okay? I said it. There. It's out there. But this Mission Impossible is being directed by Chris McQuarrie. And they're deep within shooting right now. And they said Henry Cavill can in no way shave his epic stash. It needs to be there for his movie. But Justice League is in reshoots because Joss Whedon has taken the reins of it and he wants to do more everything. I hope that's good. I hope it doesn't make the movie into a train wreck. He took the movie over from Zack Snyder because Zack Snyder had a death in the family, and all of our best go out to him, and we hope that our love gets him through this trying time. But his movie is now within the total hands of Joss Whedon, and he wants reshoots. And that means Henry Cavill has to come back to shoot his Superman parts, or in fact reshoot them. So everybody's debating. Are they going to keep the stash? Are they going to CGI the stash in when it's not there? Are they going to CGI his stash off? Are we going to have Superman with a mustache? And a lot of people are excited for Superman with a mustache. They want this to happen. And I kind of do too. I really do. There have been plenty of times when Superman has had a beard and other facial hair. One time he was trapped in space. And this was like the 80s in the comics, and he was trapped in space. And he did indeed grow lots of facial hair because he didn't have any way to groom himself, which was kind of cool. I appreciated that. That was like when I was first getting into comics too. So I saw Christopher Reeve on screen, this clean shaven guy, this, all-American guy. And then I opened up a comic book and there he is, this ball of hair. And I was intrigued. I was intrigued. So, Superman with a mustache. Make it happen. We want it. I want it. I don't know. Do you want it? I'm on Twitter at TrueLevelBub. I'll talk about it some more. What else is happening? Deadpool has found its domino. Zazie Beetz is going to play him, her. Zazie Beetz, a fine looking lady. And she hasn't been in much that I know about. She was in Atlanta with Donald Glover. It was a movie about the rap scene in Atlanta. It's not my cup of tea. I don't know if she was good at it. We'll see how she does in Deadpool. I'm happy she's going to be there with co-star Josh Brolin, and he will be playing Cable. And Josh Brolin is from everything. He is what? He's Thanos in the Avengers. Yeah, he was also in like Wall Street. He was George W. Bush in W. He's in Old Country for Men, whatever. He's been in everything, man. Josh Brolin. If you don't know who he is, he was in Men in Black, the third one. So, let's move on to how about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Y'all know there's a Turtles show on Nickelodeon. It's totally CGI, and they are pretty deep into the story arc. Actually, I think they just finished up this weekend. The story arc with Usagi Yojimbo, and I am a huge Usagi fan. And if you don't know who Usagi Yojimbo is, I'm going to give out a recommendation. Usagi Yojimbo is a samurai rabbit from feudal Japan, a different feudal Japan where all of the people are like anthropomorphic characters. It's like Duckburg, like if you ever watched DuckTales and you've seen Duckburg and they're all like different animals, it's like that, only samurai, and it's hardcore too. Like they kill each other. And there are ghost stories and like moral decisions that they have to do. It's really interesting and a really great comic book series. And since the 80s, they kind of tied Usagi Yojimbo to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And how they do that is the turtles get summoned into the world of Usagi, and then they have an adventure with him. I'm cool. I'm down with that. I wish there was a regular Usagi series. I love the character. I want more of him. More Usagi Yojimbo. Make it happen, internet. Get a petition going. Speaking of DuckTales, that series is starting this month, the end of this month. The new series, DuckTales, with David Tennant is going to be Scrooge McDuck. Danny Pudi's in it. The cast is an all-star cast. This show looks amazing and great. I know it's not a part of my thing of sci-fi and superheroes. It's just a cartoon, guys. But getting back to the theme, at San Diego Comic-Con, they said there will be Darkwing Duck episodes in this. That's right. Darkwing Duck is coming back, and we all know it's going to spin off into its own series, people. That's what we want. We want to get dangerous. Is it going to happen? Doctor Who has a new doctor coming. Jodie Whittaker from Broadchurch is going to take over as the doctor. And all the haters came out to hate because it's a woman. That's right. Doctor Who, the character that can literally transform into anyone that it wants. And people are going to make a stink because it's a woman. I don't have much more to say about that. We'll get back to that when we talk about when nerddom goes bad. We'll talk about racist nerds and misogynist nerds and all that good stuff a little later on in the show. So what happened at San Diego Comic-Con? Man, it was 2 weeks ago. It's been a long time. So you probably already know this stuff, but there was the Thor Ragnarok trailer, and that's excellent. Hulk can talk. Yeah, Hulk can talk. Yeah. And he's funny. He makes jokes. It's a jocular Hulk. Yeah, we're getting that. People like it. We want that. It's not a bad thing. The Inhumans, they're coming. New series. There's a trailer out for that. It looks okay. I'm not like too psyched. I'm not a big Inhumans fan, but hey, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. The Defenders on Netflix is coming. I saw the trailer. I don't like it. I have some problems with this, and most of the Netflix series seem really hard boiled, and this seems like everybody is riffing off each other and having a jocular time while fighting evil ninjas. I don't know. I don't get it. It doesn't feel the same as the other series, and I don't know if that's a good thing. Yeah. So you tell me. You tell me why I should like this Defenders movie. Justice League. Justice League looks totally mediocre still, even this last trailer. Star Trek Discovery had a trailer. It's a new trailer. I am on board for Star Trek Discovery. I'm so looking forward to this. I want it in my eye holes right now. And of course, there was the Avengers Secret trailer that you can find blurry videos of out there on the internet. I'm not going to watch it. I am not. And that's because I want to wait for what they have for me officially. I don't want to see some blurry, grainy footage with everybody applauding over it. I want my experience to be clear of all of that. A pure experience. So, and of course, the biggest thing that's going on right now is Game of Thrones is back in business, people. Oh, Game of Thrones, my goodness. And the last episode was a huge set piece, a giant battle with a dragon, and lots of horsemen and shield bear. Oh god, it's really good. A really great big battle. Exploding carriages. I guess like it felt like they were keeping like black powder, gunpowder, or TNT inside the carriages every time the dragon hit one with fire breath. It exploded. But this episode, I'm not going to give away plot points of this episode. Stuff happened. Go watch it. But I will say that this episode broke the Guinness Book World Record for the most number of stunt people on fire at one time. This blew away every single movie, like Braveheart, all of those, man. The most people on fire. Amazing. I'm really excited to see how this series turns out. But no spoilers here, people. That's not the news. But I am done with the news as of right now. I hope you like. That's the end of The Daily Planet. The Daily Planet is over, people. Folded up and recycled. And we're moving on to the next segment I have, which is the review segment, which I'm now going to call the DeLorean, because it's going to take us back to the time when I saw this thing, and I'm going to tell you about it. And what did I see? I saw Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. And I wanted to give this review out 2 weeks ago, but I couldn't. So here it is, a little late. I'm sure you already know this movie has been panned, and it bombed at the box office. Not a lot of people went to go see it. And it is not a bad movie. It's not a good movie. It's just not a bad one. It's a movie that I think, if you see this movie as a kid, you'd remember it fondly, and you'd grow up thinking it was a really great movie, and other people didn't like it, but you liked it. And I think in about 20 years, 10, 20 years, it might have some good appreciation behind this movie. Because it is a beautiful, beautiful movie. It has stunning set pieces in it. It's got weird aliens. It's got interesting technology and sci-fi things in it. It's got the sci-fi goods. I'm just going to tell you this right now. As a science fiction, it works. It does. So where's the bad part about this movie? Well, director Luke Benson directed this movie. He did what's that movie? Jeez, with Bruce Willis, the Fifth Element. I was going to say the Seventh Sea. The Fifth Element. And a lot of the Fifth Element was inspired by Valerian and Loreline, which was the comic book series, which Valerian and the City of Thousand Planets is based on. Valerian and Lorelei is by Pierre Christian and Jean-Claude Mezuzez. I don't know. I gotta by Mezuzez. I can't pronounce this French name. It's very, very strange. And they published it in Pilote in 1967, which is basically the French version of the Heavy Metal magazine, if you ever know what Heavy Metal is. Actually, Heavy Metal is the American version of that magazine, to be quite honest. And this comic book ran from 1967 to 2010. So it's got a lot there. So it doesn't have lack of story to build from. It's got a ton of story. So where I think the biggest problem lies is that the director, Luke Benson, and the guys who were writing it, I think they took the best parts and already used them in like the Fifth Element. And now it's, I don't know, maybe since they used it all, they had to go somewhere new, and they didn't, I think they already used the best stuff, maybe? I don't know. And I think it falls squarely on the stars. Dane DeHaan and KRUA Delevingne. Dane DeHaan, of course, he was in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't know if you saw that movie. It wasn't that great of a movie either. He played Harry Osborn, or the Green Goblin, in it. And he was also in Chronicle, the movie. He was also in the superhero movie. It's one of those found footage movies, and these guys, they find like an alien thing, and it gives them superpowers, and then they fight each other, because of course they do. And he was in both of those, and he was terrible in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I didn't like him in that. In Chronicle, he was okay. He was pretty good in Chronicle. But in this movie, he pretty much plays the same characters. He's like typecast. He's supposed to be a hero. He really is. He plays the main character, Valerian. And he's supposed to be a hero, but he acts like a jerk all the time. And it doesn't help that his co-star, KRUA Delevingne, who was in Suicide Squad, she was the Enchantress in Suicide Squad, June Moon. It doesn't help that she is also a jerk in her own way. She's just another jerk. And she plays Loreline, and they're partners. They're like cat partners. And they work for the humans who are trying to police. They're just doing like spy police work. They're like part military, part police, part spy. They're a little bit of everything. And they look young. They look like kids. But they say they've been doing it for 9 years, and that they're the special elite. They're the best. And he even shoves it, the character of Valerian shoves it in your face, telling you how big of an IQ score he's at, how good he did on his test. They're Mary Sue's. Definitely. From the beginning. You already start to hate them. And because he shoves it in people's face. I think they're trying to go on the Hugh Laurie kind of house character where we're good because and we can be arrogant and we can be jerks because we're that good. The problem is they don't look like they've earned it. They look like kids. And they look like white, privileged, like everything that's wrong with like privileged children. That's how they act. So they have no chemistry. And they're terrible people. And their only saving grace is that they go after even less terrible people than they are. That's the only thing they got going for them. And Valerian is after Lorelai in this movie. He wants to get with her. And so he tells her, and she throws every conquest he's ever had back in his face and say, as soon as you get these girls, you're done with them and you leave. And there's a huge like black book that she has, like a virtual black book of all the holograms of all the women. And he makes excuses and she blows it off because they're obviously excuses. But he goes farther. Every time she turns him down, he ups the ante like a jerk would, like a person who's trying to manipulate would do. Suddenly, out of the blue, he offers a marriage proposal to her without dating her, without doing any of the work. It's just like, I'm going to marry you. How about that? Are you going to turn that down? And yeah, it comes off totally insincere, totally like a manipulation. And every time he goes further and further after this girl, it feels like a manipulation. And by the end, she totally buys it and falls for it. I guess we're meant to believe that he's grown as a person through all of the tribulations that have happened in this movie, but it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like that at all. It feels like after that, now that she's given in, that the next movie is just going to start fresh with them probably in an argument because they've broken up because he did exactly what she said he was going to do, which was use her and then move on. And the fact that she didn't follow her own advice is kind of, it's a bit infuriating. Yeah, so that's the problem with the movie right there. That's the crux, is they're jerks. And she's a jerk too. She's not a good person. She's full of herself. She's it's not good. So they make just a jerk sandwich. It's a jerk burger. So what is good about this movie? Where's the good part? The plot is, well, the main bad guy is, he's okay. He's not the best, but he's okay. There's nothing terrible about this bad guy. You understand his motivations. Everything's good on that front. But the aliens, everything that's supporting them, the world that's around them is super interesting. So they're on this space station. It's basically like the International Space Station, but it kept building and it kept adding on. And soon it became this giant intergalactic space station that travels through space and time, just out there in the universe, and all sorts of aliens are on it, and the humans have their section and these aliens have other sections, and the aliens are super interesting. There's this on this intergalactic space station, there's a group of spear-wielding aliens who try to eat Lorelai's brain in the most ridiculous and hilarious way possible. It is an amazing scene. It's pretty cool. There's also a red light district that Valerian visits because he needs a shape-changing alien played by Rihanna. And there is just this amazing, amazing burlesque scene where Rihanna shape changes into every different like burlesque or sexy trope. She's a school teacher now. She's a dominatrix. She's a sexy nurse. And the transitions are so smooth, and just like all of the burlesque equipment that she needs just appears like magic. And it is a magical scene. It is an amazingly done Burlesque show is what it is. I sound like a dirty old man when I saying, "Oh yeah, this burlesque show is the best. You should go see it." By the way, I am at Truly Evil Bob. You can join the conversation with me on Twitter at Truly Evil Bob. So that is Valerian in a nutshell. So let's get out of our DeLorean and go to the main story of the day. I actually don't have a name for the main story of the day. If you have an idea of what I can call the main story, maybe the town crier, I don't know. Tweet at me at TrulyEvilBob, and I'll take your suggestion under consideration. I need all the ideas I can get. But the main story today is when fandom goes bad. Bad nerds. So, let's go back in the Wayback Machine real quick to when I was a kid. I'm 38. I just turned 38 last month I turned 38. And when I was a kid, I was a nerd. People did not appreciate me. Yeah, which is odd because you talk about a nerd now and you're like, oh, girls love nerds and nerds are so great. Nerds are everywhere. You want to be I like nerdy people because they're so fascinating. This is not how things were when I was a kid. You had Steve Urkel and Screech from Saved by the Bell. These were nerds. You were tormented for being different, for liking things that other people didn't like, and it was a hard time. I got into fights. I didn't have many friends. This was a nerd. So now, fast forward to nowadays, and anything can be a nerd. So when I introduce this show, I don't call this the show for nerds about nerds or anything like that, or nerddom or any. This is about sci-fi, fantasy, and comic books. This is about fandom. And I think there's a big difference now between being a nerd and having fandom. Sometimes I use that word, and I shouldn't. Because nerd has been used so much for so many things. It's kind of lost meaning to me. So you can be a nerd for anything. You can be like, people like to say, oh yeah, I'm a football nerd. I know a lot about football. And when I was a kid, that was called a jock or a normal person. You know, that's what you were. There was no sports nerd. They were jocks. That's what you were. You liked the numbers or the tactical part of that, and so you were more on the coaching side. Excuse me, I'm thirsty. So you were more on the coaching side, or you played, you were in it, and you were a sports player. That's what you were. An athlete, sports player. You were an athlete. But now, hey, you can be a nerd for anything. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Everybody's a nerd, which means no one's a nerd, and the word is meaningless. But it still does have some meaning. It still does have some of that core in it, especially when we talk about fandom. And that's where we're going right now. Where the fandom is, where we group together to love on a certain thing, whether that is our being a Trekkie and going to Star Trek conventions, or being a role play enthusiast and dressing up like a knight or whatever and going out and rolling D20s, or loving comic books and, you know, cosplaying and as your favorite superhero, or even sexy cosplay if you're into that. You know, that's we're going to get into that. Trust me. So then nerds have to be part of this entire culture that has become pop culture. It's not nerd culture anymore. It's pop culture. But there are these still old classic nerds like me in it. People who are social outcasts. And this is where we can be a little cruel. You see, just because people are social outcasts doesn't mean they've risen above social norms or social cliques or anything like that. No. They just create their own within this little sub bubble, this little subgenre, and they can be cliquish, and nerds are very resistant to change because we like our things that are our things not to be different. We like it in that little shell. We don't like our food to touch, as it were. So I can give you an example of this. Anytime anything weird or strange happens to a superhero, he gets a new costume, or his powers change, or he's different somehow, they will stoke the fires and grab pitchforks and torches and say how it's wrong and why you're doing it wrong, and they will rain down the fires, the holy fires upon you for daring to mess with their beloved franchise. Next week, I'm hoping to do a review of the Ultimatum storyline in Marvel. It is panned as the worst storyline in all of comics. Ultimatum. I've started reading it. I don't see how it's that bad. It just changes things. It makes everything change. And I think that's why people hate it. Because nerds hate change. So if you change something, so let's go to Doctor Who. Every time there's a new Doctor, people lament the fact that there's a new Doctor. They don't want the Doctor to change. They like that's their Doctor. They don't want it to change. And now it's changing even further from a man to a female. This is the first female Doctor. So they are out. Yes, they are out in force saying how much they hate it. Is it because they're misogynists? Some of them. But I think they're cloaking their fear of change within misogyny. In other terms, they might not be misogynists at all. In fact, they might say, hey, I love all of these women characters, and why can't women characters have their own character? Because I love these guys. I like Xena Warrior Princess, and I watch that all the time. It was great. I have great fandom for Xena, but I don't think Doctor Who should be a woman. It's not... You want to say, it's misogyny. It's that fear of change, and it comes off as misogyny. But I think that's where a lot of it is. Let's talk about fake nerd girls. This is a thing that's happened. It's just fake nerds in general. There's a lot of people. You have to pass a nerd litmus test to be in this nerd, in this fandom. So this is where, this is why I don't like calling things nerds, because it's such a broad term. Like, if you're into comic books, you're into comic book fandom. So if you dress up in comic book fandom stuff, if you're a cosplayer doing comic book fandom, you might have people testing your comic book knowledge. And if you don't pass, you shouldn't be wearing that costume. And this is partially because we're cliquish, partially because this is a social group and they like to be cliquish and be exclusionary. We're special because you're not us. And I know. So many people. There's so much out there, so much media out there saying, oh, nerds are the best people because they're so welcoming and so lovely. And a lot of times they are. A lot of times, there are groups that are so welcoming and loving, and I found a lot of great people out there doing this thing, but not everybody's like that. And even it happens in sports. There are great sports teams that are very welcoming, and there are bad sports teams that are terrible. There are good places to work where the people are wonderful to work with, and there are bad places to work where, this happens everywhere. You can't say that nerd culture is just the best and welcoming most. That's your experience. And I've had experiences that are way to the contrary. And other people have too, in the place of fake nerd girls. And they don't like them because, one, they're They don't know these people, and they're trying to horn in on what is yours. This is your fandom. This is mine. You can't come in here and redefine it with your hackney cosplay. And 2 is the sexy cosplayer who, she might have a modeling career and is using this to get views and clicks and stuff like that. To which whoa, how dare you use my thing to make money? How dare you're fake. You're selling your body. This goes more into the misogyny thing again. You're using my fandom to be a hooker, to be a sellout, to be all of the bad things that you could imagine. And guys, these people just trying to make a living. Who cares? If you don't like it, move on. It doesn't actually change anything. And in fact, if you welcome these people, if you get these people to come in and be your friends, you can have some hot friends discussing comic books with you all night, partying with you all night. It doesn't help. It doesn't help doing these things. It only hurts. And you shouldn't judge somebody when you first meet them. Now, you may find a cosplayer that does modeling cosplay, and they just might be jerks. In which case, don't call them fake nerds or anything. Just call them jerks. There's already a word. They're jerks. Don't be a jerk yourself. Let that job be other people's. I cracked myself up. I'm sorry. So let me tell you a personal story of myself in a situation where they wanted me to leave. Somebody wanted me out of their little cliquish fandom circle. And if you have a story about when fandom hurt you, please, I'm at Trulyable Bob. I'd love to discuss it with you. So this was back when I was in college. And I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I love Dungeons and Dragons. It helped me through entirely tough times in my life. Like I said, when I was a kid in high school, I had absolutely no friends. And Dungeons and Dragons helped me find friends, people that needed me to be there at that table to help them with whatever adventure we were on. I felt needed. I felt part of something. And it's extremely important to me. The Dungeons and Dragons community, the role-playing game community, these are people who I take a great deal of pride in. I want to give back to that community. There's something special there for me. And I was getting into a new group. And this group, there was a guy, I'm just going to call him Ken. Ken didn't like me and made sure at every chance he got to make sure he wanted my character to die in every way, always. And he was very successful at doing this, actually, because I would put myself out there. I wanted to have fun. I'm not a reserved person. I am a very exuberant person, and I want to go out there and poke things with a stick and set off the trap and make things happen, And so it's easy to kind of put me into a little trap. And mind you, the first two characters, I didn't know he was doing that to me. And by the time I figured it out, I was like, whatever, he's going to kill me anyways. I'm just going to have fun. And maybe I'll ruin his fun along the way. I don't care. But the game master stepped in. And he gave my character a magical ability. He cursed me so that if I died, I would explode, killing everybody around me. And it forced Ken to have to save my life. This game master was an awesome nerd. His name's Howard, and he's my best friend today. He's one of the best people, best human beings on the planet, quality human being. And I'm very appreciative of what he did for me to this day. And you can see him. He's actually still role plays with me on my channel, Truly Evil Bob on YouTube. You can see him and you can thank him for everything that he does, for being such a great human being. So it's not to say that there's everyone's bad, but everybody is definitely not good. And you should always be cautious when coming into a new group. Feel it out. See where you are. Don't be a jerk, but don't put up with jerks. So I want to go back to this fear of change that nerds have, and I want to talk about specifically the Star Wars movies, because I said before, when things change, nerds throw a fit. They don't like it. They like their box to be their box. So the Star Wars movies, they started under Disney about 2 years ago. We got The Force Awakens and then Rogue One. And a lot of people didn't like The Force Awakens because it was just a retread of A New Hope, the very first Star Wars movie, Star Wars, and then later renamed A New Hope. Yeah, it was. And people loved it because it was the same thing. That's why tons of people are raging for the next Star Wars movie. And then the next Star Wars movie that came after that is just the prequel to A New Hope again. This is what led up to A New Hope. So we got two things that are basically in the first Star Wars movie. And what are we going to do next? We're going to do the Han Solo movie that was going to be different. It was going to have a lot of different things. And because it was so different, they canned the directors, the writer-director team. Boom, you're gone. We're putting in Ron Howard. And he's going to make it more like a Star Wars movie. So here's where I'm going with this. All the Star Wars movies, I think they're going to be a bit cookie cutter. They're going to be quote unquote Star Wars. And they won't let you stray too far from that path. They're putting out a new Star Wars movie once a year. Once a year. Think about that. If they keep doing that, if you're 20 years old, that's 60 movies, 60 more Star Wars movies you are going to see in your lifetime. If you live to 100, that's 80. Are you serious? Do you really want to watch this same movie 60 more times? I'm 38. If it's going to be 42 more movies if I die at 80. I don't want to see the same movie, the same cookie cutter experience 40 more times. I'm not in for that. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. You come to my place, there are Star Wars books everywhere. I adore it. I am not ready. I am not ready for this 40 more Star Wars movies of the same cookie cutter experience. And if you stray from it, they will can you and replace you with Opie. They will do it. They are not afraid. That's what we have to look forward to. At least with the Avengers, with the Marvel movies that they've been doing, they're experimenting with different ideas. The Guardians of the Galaxy was like 80s pop, kind of nostalgic. The Winter Soldier was like kind of a spy thriller kind of superhero movie. Ant-Man was a kitschy little fun comedy, action comedy romp. So they're trying to experiment with these things. And here's the thing that people are worried about with Ragnarok. They see the trailer for Ragnarok. I see the trailer for Ragnarok. And Thor grabs a bunch of unlikely heroes. You got Valkyrie, Thor, Loki, and Hulk. And they're going to save the universe with this 80s kind of retro feel to it. Isn't this Guardians of the Galaxy? Are we just going to do Guardians of the Galaxy over and over again? This does not bode well, people. This is... let's hope this trend doesn't last and that we get different movies, superhero movies with different feels to it. And in fact, this homogenization is the biggest problem with DC, with the DC movies. We had The Dark Knight, and it was so successful, but it was over. And so they made The Man of Steel, and they made The Man of Steel The Dark Knight. And The Man of Steel is not Batman. He doesn't have the same feel of Batman. It's not that. You can't do that. It's wrong. It's a wrong fit. So people didn't like Man of Steel as much, and Batman v Superman as much. So here we go. Wonder Woman comes out, and everybody loves Wonder Woman. And now there are articles coming out like, when will the Wonder Woman effect kick into the other movies? Will we see Wonder Woman movies that are the new movies be more like Wonder Woman? And I'm like, no, I hope not. Please don't do that. Make each movie its own thing, its own character, has its own feel. Green Lantern has a huge sci-fi feel to it. Superman is a down-to-earth character who can relate to people even though he has amazing superpowers. Batman is the guy who skulks in the underbelly and, crazy stuff happens to him that are just, they mess with his mind, and it's a mind bender thing. These are the things we got to do. This is all these characters have to have their own niche, and if you make them all the same thing, people are going to get bored, and people are going to realize that you're playing them, and they don't like that. It's not a good time. And that's my final thought on this. Nerds, embrace change. Embrace things that are different. And embrace your fellow man. Don't be put off by differences. If somebody's black, if there's a black actor playing, just let it happen. These things, I know you feel like you own them. We all feel like we own our fandom. But at the end of the day, that's not who you are. It's not who we are. We want to be good people that extend hands to our fellow man and bring in new ideas and new thoughts and try and give them their just, their chance in the spotlight. And if they are bad, if it doesn't work out, we can look at those failures, we can look at those mistakes, and we can analyze them like the nerds we are and pull apart what was bad and what was right. We can look at the Fantastic Four movie and say, oh, this is what went wrong with it. And it usually has nothing to do with the black actor or the woman actor. It has everything to do with the direction or how the acting was as a whole, or the story or the special effect or whatever it was. Let's come together and all do that. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. I am Corey, Truly Evil Bob, at Truly Evil Bob on the Tweetster. You are listening to KRUA here on the Alaska University of Alaska campus at Anchorage. Thank you for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.